Shalom. Hey, how are you all? So glad you made it. Today we will be continuing our studies in the ancient Triennial Torah portion. That is the ancient 3.5-year cycle of reading the Torah, which is older than the yearly Babylonian cycle, which is more common today. Today we are on I believe it's the 24th Torah portion in this cycle, and this we will be covering in the entire Westminster Leningrad Codex. All of our teaching will be showing the Westminster Leningrad Codex today. That's what you see behind me. It's over 1,000 years old, very ancient, very, very neat. And we will do the entire Torah portion from it this time, just from it. But I have notes and stuff that'll be there, just because it's a longer parashah than last time. So I don't really have the time to show the cleaner, crisp style of Hebrew. And then this, nobody voiced any kind of disapproval to using this text, so I'm trying it this time because many of you were enthusiastic. If you struggle with it and find it hard and don't want me to do this next time or prefer the hybrid method, let me know. Just trying to always improve our studies here. So the Torah portion is Genesis chapter 25, verse 19 through chapter 26, verse 11. Let's just start with a real quick prayer. Avinu Malkeinu ken hi ratzon. כי ביום הזה אנחנו יכולים ללמוד טוב את דבריך. מודיעים אנחנו, אדוני, כי נתת לנו את תורתך. מודיעים אנחנו לך, אדוני, לחגים ולמועדות ולשבתות. תשלח נא את רוחך על כל תלמידי. All right, so here we are right next to me. This is the little doodle, like the little pretty symbol. You see that, right? And it's that whole thing, like on top and on bottom. This is the way that the scribe of this particular text marks the annual yearly parasha, right? The parsha of the Torah portions, where people read through the Torah in 1 year. And then just above me, the giant samech with like a sideways kametz on top of it. This is how he marked the ancient Triennial Torah portions. There are some slight variances in traditions from time to time with what was discovered at the Geniza in Egypt. But for the most part, it lines up. And I think every time there's an annual parsha, that's also where one of the triennial parashot starts. So you'll see them combined like that. More often than not, we don't see the annual one there, right? So you'll just see the samech instead. All right. Now the Torah portion today, it is called the Ele Toledot Yitzchak. Now these are the generations of Yitzchak, of Isaac. Okay, let's get started. So just a close-up to where we are starting from. You can still see there's the annual marker, and then here's the Sedra, and I put over it Genesis 25:19, so you can see what our verse is. All right, so let's go ahead and read. Oh no, if we're here, you can see the communists, the handiwork of the commie. Let me move myself to the side, actually. There we go, we're out of the way. All right, yeah, up there. See where it says 25:19? That's 25:19 with the European fashion. All right. Actually, maybe that's fine. Okay. Now, I won't be canting today, since we are in the ancient text, and we can do it. I mean, you can see the cantillation marks. I'm just thinking, let's do one step at a time. And sometimes the cantillation marks are not abundantly obvious, in this kind of ancient handwriting. It is like reading someone's handwriting, you understand? They did their best to make it really look good, but sometimes the words are touching each other, and sometimes, I might have a box that's covering one of the trope marks. So I'm not going to cant it today. You let me know if you missed that, and then we can maybe try to implement it next time. Ve'ele toledot Yitzchak ben Avraham. Now these are the toledot Yitzchak, construct chain, the generations. The root is yeled or yalad, yod lamed dalet, to bear, to birth, or to sire. And with verbs that start with a yod, oftentimes that yod becomes the ancient waw or vav here. So it disappears too. So this is a noun though. Toledot, generations of Yitzchak. It can also mean other things in other contexts. Like in Vayikra, you'll see it used as like inscriptions, like those who, not inscriptions, I'm sorry. Someone who signs up, like registrations maybe, or those who are taken into the army, etc. So anyway, it does have some other meanings other than generations, although generations is by far the most common, and that's what it means here. These are the generations of Yitzchak. Ben Avraham, the son of Avraham. And here we just have some doodles, looks like half an aleph with a marker above it, that the scribe did to make sure the columns line up neatly, and that we don't accidentally mistake that white space as maybe a word disappeared or a letter disappeared over time. Avraham holid et Yitzchak. Abraham sired Yitzchak. Okay, you'll notice we have a he-fil form of the word here. So yalad, to birth. Holid is a he-fil, to cause to birth. All right. I want to point you out to one of the idiosyncrasies of this particular scribe here as well. Let's see if you're trying to follow along with what's happening. Oops, hold on, that was kind of weird. Okay. So you'll see the yod there. That's a long yod, isn't it? Well, he's almost as long as the vav, right? So he kind of was generous with the yod length there. Over here, we're a bit smaller, but still, not to my liking. That one's a lot better on Yitzchak, but still. So that's something to watch out for, to make sure you don't accidentally consider a yod a vav. And there are readings, especially when we're in the Psalms, sometimes a word doesn't make sense. And if you can just consider maybe it's a vav instead of a yod, or maybe it's a yod instead of a vav, not just in the Psalms, all throughout the Tanakh, occasionally, it makes more sense if you think that maybe it was a scribal, someone, when they brought it into digital transcription before doing translations, they might have thought it was a yod when really it was a vav, or vice versa. So that happens sometimes. Also, there are reasons sometimes in the ancient world, in ancient Hebrew, that vav and yod would sometimes, different dialects would use one in place of the other for the same word. It's not so bad when you consider that it wasn't a V sound, the vav, it was a w. So y and w, you can kind of see how, especially if there's vowels involved, like e, right? Like the chirik and the yod and the chirik and the waw, e, right? They get really close, don't they? So anyway, okay, I won't blah blah too much about those things. I just wanted to point it out. I know some of you find it interesting. Oh, okay. I didn't intend to read that last part, so here we go. Ve'eli toledot Yitzchak ben Avraham. Now these are the generations of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Avraham holid et Yitzchak. Now Avraham sired, right? He caused to yalad. He caused to birth Yitzchak. Okay, and then we have the next verse there. The first half of this verse already labeled Yitzchak as the son of Avraham. The extra information of Avraham sired Yitzchak, Avraham holid et Yitzchak, is provided according to tradition to make clear that Yitzchak was not the product of the Avimelech incident. We are informed by the Midrash Tanchuma, pretty reliable Midrash, Toledot 1, that Hashem instructed an angel to make Yitzchak look identical to Avraham, so nobody would dare question Yitzchak's patronage, right? Patronage. So yeah, I think I've shared on this before, this midrashic understanding that they looked identical. Like we would say in the South, a spitting image. It was a spitting image. All right. Continuing with verse 20. I'm not sure if you can see it. I have a little annotation there. There's an annotation we have here. Genesis chapter 25, verse 20. You can't, some of them. Sometimes I can see it. Vayhi Yitzchak. Now, Yitzchak was Ben, and then we don't read that. That's just filling in the space. That's end of line. Arba'im Shana. He was a son of Arba'im, 40 Shana year. Right? So that's how you say he was 40 years old. Bekach to. This is an infinitive construct. So, be, literally, in or when, lakach is the verb, the lamed is gone, taking, of him. So we render that in English, when he took, or when he married, et Rivka, when he married Rivka. Da Bat Bethuel, the daughter of Bethuel, right? Because that's a name. Ha-Arami, the Aramean. Oh, the Aramean never really comes by anymore, does he? His Hebrew might be too strong for us now. He doesn't need us anymore. That's my Syrian friend over in the UK. There was a Torah keeper, Joshua. Okay. Mipadan. Oh, sorry, we missed something. Oh, no, that's right. Mipadan Aram, from that place, Padan Aram. Da Achot Lavan, the sister of Lavan. Oh, sorry, the hour's in the wrong place. The sister of Lavan. And then we have white space filler again. Ha-Arami, the Aramean. You know, that's an actual ethnicity in Israel. You can register as an Aramean as your ethnicity. Isn't that interesting? You know, we got all kinds of Druze and Arabs and Jews and Arameans. Lo, Isha, for himself, le, for an Isha, for a woman or a wife. Okay. Genesis chapter 25, verse 21. Vayeta Yitzchak Ladonai. Then Yitzchak he Rapta Ayin Tav Resh. So this is an interesting word. Rapta. Actually, I'll finish the rest and we'll come back to it, okay? Ladonai, to Adonai, whatever that word was. Lenochach. For nochach is like sitting just opposite of somebody. Ishto, his Isha, his wife. Why? Ki akarahi, because she was barren. Vaye'ater. So he, again, same verb. He did that, lo, literally to him. So maybe by himself. Adonai. Vataha, and she conceived. Who conceived? Rivka Ishto, his wife. So let's talk about this word, this kind of strange word here. Ye'ta has the sense of plead, but its usage in cognate languages indicates something more physical is happening. By the way, this is from my book, Genesis, Look Again. So, okay, this is my writing here. That's why I'm not quoting a scholar. Classical Arabic, ra'tara, means to slaughter for a sacrifice. Right? This is the verb in biblical Hebrew that he's using, right? So in a cognate language with Hebrew, it had the meaning to slaughter for sacrifice. Isn't that interesting? And in Ugaritic, gata, which is like a guttural gimel. I know some of you are studying Ugaritic. Gata, to kill. It seems there was a chain of development of this word. Kill, slaughter for sacrifice, and then finally, in biblical Hebrew, like plead. Plead in prayer is how it feels like to me, to fervently plead. It's not the normal word for prayer, right? It's not mitpalel, right? And he's not just sha'al, it's not just requesting, or bikesh, requesting, but it's rata. It's some serious state of prayer that used to mean slaughtering for a sacrifice, which was preserved in the classical Arabic, right? So he's doing this Adonai. He's sitting across from his wife Rivka. So this we can learn from our ancestor this way. Why? Because it worked. Adonai answered his prayer. So lovely. So Vayata Yitzchak and Yitzchak, he did this kind of prayerful pleading. L'Adonai, to Hashem. Lenochach, to just seated opposite from and facing Ishto, his Isha, his wife. Ki akarahi, because barren was she. Vaye'ater lo. So entreated by him was Adonai. Adonai was entreated by him. It's kind of sneaky. It's a nifal. It's hard to see what's going on there because the ayin doesn't take the dagesh, right? So it was entreated by him, Adonai. V'tohal, the verb is hara, he reish he, the he went away, and conceived Rivka, Ishto, his wife. Genesis 25, verse 22. Vayitrotzatzu habanim bekirbah. But habanim, the children, the sons, you can interpret it, they struggled against each other. It's in Hippael. They ratzatzt, right? They struggled against each other. Bekirbah, in the kerev of in her kerev. Vatomer, so she said, Im Cain. I'm not a big fan of that noon Sophie. It looks like a Zion, doesn't it, with the kind of hat there? And it doesn't descend all the way, right? It looks like it says K's, but in context, I know it's got to be Cain, right? Im K's would make no sense. Im Cain, if such, lama zeh, for what purpose zeh, this, or why zeh, why this? And we don't translate that. That's end of line characters. Anochi, am I. Vatelech. So she halacht. She telech, she went. Lidrosh, to inquire or to seek. Et Yodhe Wauhe Adonai. Okay, any comments or questions? Yeah, let's continue. Oops, sorry. Missed the cool animation. No, it won't be so. There we go. Let it go. 9. Not yet. All right. Here we are. Genesis chapter 25, verse 23. And I don't know if you've noticed, I've been graying out. The reason for the gray boxes, if you're not sure what's happening, that's just so you don't get confused and think that's where we continue. So I added that to kind of make it easier to process as text, because I know you're already struggling to read probably what it says. I don't find it particularly easy myself. Vayomer Adonai Allah. Then Hashem said to her, Da Shnei Goyim, 2 peoples, 2 nations, Bevit Nech, are in the beten of Eich, are in your beten, in your belly. And the Shnei Leumim. You can kind of see here how there's some black smudge on the background. Also, my Hebrew literacy thing was a little bit too dark on this page, sorry. But you can see, right? Like there's some kind of mistake that got erased or whatever, perhaps. And Shnei Le'umim, and two peoples. Now, this word for Le'um, Rashi comments in his commentary on the Talmud. He commented on the whole Talmud. Where is that? It's in Avodah Zarah, page 2. I think B. I think the backside of the page. He comments that Le'um, it does mean a people, right? But specifically a people which is a malchut, which is a kingdom, or mamlacha, kingdom. So that's why that particular word there, instead of just la'amim, right? Le'amim or something. Le'umim. There's an insurance company in Israel. I think it's called, is it Betach Le'umi? It's something Le'umi. And there's Le'umi National Bank and all this. It's kind of interesting. Not a kingdom, though. Not a people that are a kingdom. Words change. Mi me'ayich, from your kishki, in Yiddish, from your kishki, from your guts, from your innards. Now on this, Vayomer Adonai Allah, then Hashem said to her, I have a comment I want to share. Ibn Ezra understands via a prophet or through Avraham himself. For Avraham did not pass away until her sons were 15 years of age. Excuse me. All right. Verse 24. Let me zoom in a bit to make sure you can see what's happening there. See? We are. Genesis 25, verse 24. Vayimeleu. And they were malah. They were filled. What were filled? Yameha. So this is kind of more difficult to notice. By the way, you see those yods, they look a lot like vavs, don't they? They're getting longer. They're getting longer. But he does do kind of a curve usually, right? Like if you look at the vav above, that's got more of an angular in it, right? And then here it's like one curved stroke. So there are, when you get used to the scribe's handwriting, you can get used to, you can kind of start to understand. So Yam, this is from, don't think C, it's not her, C's. It's from Yom. And the vav disappears. Yamim, days. Drop the mem for construct. Yameh, days of ha. So Yameha, her days. So Vayimmeleu Yameha. And her days were filled. Laledit, or when her days were filled. The vav can mean all kinds of things. When her days were filled, laledit, to birth. That's the infinitive form from yalad. Notice the yod is gone. We're only left with, so yod lamed dalet, we're only left with lamed and dalet. Laledit, to birth. Vehine, then check it out. Tomim, twins, were, we just have to imply the were, we know the time in English. Bevitna, in the beten of, in her womb. Not womb, in her tummy area. Rechem is the technical name for womb, but beten, there's crossover, right, in the meanings. So tomim is spelled a little bit defectively here. I want to show you, hold on. The word, again, this is from my book, the word for twins is written defective, without aleph and yod, while in the case of Tamar, it is written tomim. It's got the aleph and the yod. They're both gone here. Look, they're both gone right there. See, it's just tav, cholam vav. There's no aleph. And the yod is also gone before the mem sofi. Because in the latter case, both children proved righteous. While here, one was righteous and the other wicked. Right? So, of course, we know that Esau will be wicked. So you can find this in Midrash Breshit Rabbah 63:8, and also in Rashi. Any comments or questions? I'm going to take a quick drink, which means I will visually leave you just for a moment, for those who don't like to see that kind of stuff. And back. Any comments or questions? Hope you guys are enjoying this new approach to teaching using the ancient codex. Haha, I didn't expect me over here, did you? Ah, I think I'm more out of the way. All right, let's continue working through with our study of the Triennial Torah portion from the ancient Westminster Leningrad Codex, over 1,000 years old. I think this codex, I need to check, or maybe somebody can check for me in the comments below, or if you're here in the live. I think this codex dates back to the time when the third caliphate of Islam, Uthman, when he was burning all the Qurans that didn't match each other, right? Like he sent Ibn Tariq, I think, around to collect all the different Qurans, and he was to choose which one he liked. And then the ones he didn't like, those versions were all burned. I think it's about the time that this was written. So how interesting that even before the Dead Sea Scrolls were written, right? But we have our entire Hebrew Bible very intact. And of course the Aleppo Codex even older, right? So, but it was damaged in a fire in Syria in the synagogue. Go figure. I wonder how that happened. But it's very interesting that here we have this beautifully pointed Hebrew text from about the time period where Islam was destroying the Qurans they didn't like to kind of artificially force and make it look like they had one textual tradition. Which is why you'll hear today people, oh look, it's Quran over here is the same as Quran over here. When really it's not true. There are 7 versions today they've found, but with thousands of differences. But for such a small book, it's smaller than the New Testament to give you kind of some understanding. But it's interesting that that was happening. I think I'm right on the time frame historically. When this was written, when this was being written down, that was when, or when this was being copied from other sources, right? Really, that's when they were destroying the variances to the Quran. When Caliph Uthman was doing that, so burning them. Some people died. They didn't want to give up their. They refused to give up their Quran because they believed it was the word of God, and it was interestingly enough, I wish I could remember the man. There's one man. Anyway, I won't get into it. That's enough. Just kind of interesting thought I had there about how they were burning their stuff while we were still copying what was known to be correct, which has been verified largely by the Dead Sea Scrolls now, Baruch Hashem, which of course are 2,400 years plus old. Like it's 2,200, maybe like that, are Dead Sea Scrolls. So lovely, lovely. No need to burn anything. Okay. Oh, wait, did I translate it all? I did, yeah, that's right. Okay. Here we are, Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. I'll make it a bit bigger. You can tell here there was kind of a smudge or something. It's also possible that the scribe didn't do this and just what he's using had that on there, but he corrected it pretty well. You can tell. Vayetze harishon. And then we have the little marker to say, hey, don't, this isn't a letter here. Being very careful so we don't have to burn anything. Vayetze harishon. When or then, harishon, the first one, yetze, he went out, right? Like the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt, the Exodus. He exodused out. He exodused out. Admoni, reddish. Kulo, all of him. Ke da aderet se'ah. Like the reddish hide of a se'ah. Of course, that is like a tan. It's not really like reddish hide. It's like, how do I put it? Like a reddened, like a tanned leather, something like that. Like the skin had been made reddish. Right? So he's that red. He's that red. Vayikreu. So, here I'm going to translate the Vav, this one, as so, Yikreu, they karad, they called Shemo, his name, Esau. Esau. So Harishon. So Vayetze Harishon. When the first one came out, Chizkuni reports that Rabbi Yossi claimed Yaakov was conceived first, and on this basis he should have been the firstborn all along. Since they were fraternal twins, right? You would have one conceived before the other. All right, what I've done here is, you'll see at the top I have like one word that's by itself. That's because in the Masorah, in the Westminster Leningrad Codex, we have columns, right? We have columns. And sometimes a verse begins at the bottom of one column and continues on the next column, right? Going right to left. So right to left down, up, right to left down, column, 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 right? So instead of, that's kind of tricky to do when we're teaching live. So what I decided to do is I did a copy paste, I did a screenshot, and then I cut it out. So this is from the bottom of the previous column, this word that's up above me, okay? But it's the beginning of the verse, Genesis 25:26. So that's why that's that way, okay? There is a method to my madness. So hopefully that won't be too confusing for anyone. I kind of feel like canting this one. Let's see. Looks like probably a munach cut off. Oh no, okay, they're connected. ואחרי כן יצא אחיו. Oh no, I really can't. Where's the trope on this guy? Oh, that's a slight rev E. Okay. All right, let's try this again. ואחרי כן יצא אחיו וידו אוחזת בעקב. וישב וקרא שמו יעקב. ויצחק בן 60. It's kind of hard to make out the trope sometimes. Sometimes it just seems sloppy. But we're so accustomed to nice printed crisp text, right? So now in a normal Torah scroll, you can buy Torah scrolls that are pointed like this. They're just very expensive. They're uber expensive as opposed to just normal expensive. So, oh, I hope we have a Torah scroll someday here. That'd be so nice. If anybody's ever moved. In a normal Torah scroll, you don't have the vowels though, and you don't have the ta'amim, right? So you need to, if you're going to cant it, you need to practice ahead of time. Like I used to go up when I was the Baal Koreh, the Torah reader. I used to go up to the shul on Fridays and had my own keys. So I would go up to shul, and well, I'd go for Kabbalah Shabbat with everybody, and then stay there. And then everybody would go home, and I'd take out the Torah scroll and practice for a couple hours, right? Because when I'd cant it the next day, the annual parsha, right, the yearly portions, you don't see all these markers, so you got to go through and try to remember how to cant it. So, okay. So ve'acharei chen. Now after such, yatsa achiv, his brother came out, right? He exodused. Ve'yado, and his yad, his hand, ochezit, was grabbing. Chazah, it's to grab or to seize, right? So ochezit, participle, was grabbing. Ba, against akev. Actually, it's construct. De akev Aisal, the heel of Aisal. He was grabbing his heel. Viado, and his hand, ochezit, was grabbing ba'akev Aisal, literally against the akev of Aisal, the heel of Aisal. It changes pointing because it's construct here. And could you imagine seeing such a thing? It's kind of amazing, actually. We have these pictures when like a surgeon operates on a baby in utero, right? And then sometimes the baby's grabbing his finger and stuff like that. So cool, so precious. So imagine the hand grabbing his brother's heel, trying to come out. No, I'm first. Vayikra Shemo, so they called his name Yaakov. He heals is really what that means. Not heals like making somebody healthy, but heals like a heel grabber. Like, you know, those little dogs they call healers, right? They're like at your heel. So nice. It's nice. It's a nice etymology and nice how they named him based on that. So again, for my book, Genesis Look Again, I want to share with you, cave means heel. And Yaakov is Jacob, or more literally in English, something like the heel grabs. He heel grabs. He heel grabs. He heel grabs. The word was kind of coined. You understand? It's. We have this sometimes in Hebrew, a back-formed verb. It's called a verb is coined from a noun, an existing noun. Right? Usually it goes the other way. You got the verbal root, and yeah, but sometimes you have a noun, and then I think we do this in English too, right? So oh, I remember hearing Russians in Boston when I was a student in Boston. They got to pack the car and have it yard. Sorry, just such a crazy accent. But I remember hearing Russians say parkavat. Right, so they took the English word park and they made infinitive to park in Russian. like, like nam not a parkavat, Tom. We got a park over there. You know, some kind of, so that happens in other languages too, right? Not just Hebrew. So they did this with Aikiv, with heel. Yeah, it actually I should read it the way we do with our tones. Ya Yaakov, Ya Yaakov. By the way, look how he put the patach to the side. I don't like that. Bring it over here, please. Bring it over here. Ya Yaakov. Okay. So they called him heel grabber, or he grabs heels. I have a plus here. Let's see. Do I have more comments? Nope. No, I don't. Okay. Ah, hold on. Sorry, I think I went forward accidentally. There we go. Okay. This is just another proof that it's absolute nonsense when people say, "Oh, it means usurper." What mother's going to name her child usurper? You know, or deceiver or cheat. You know, I like Jordan Peterson, but he totally got it wrong in his teaching on Genesis when he's using these free commentaries from the 1800s and stuff. I think so. Yeah, I like him. I'm not bashing him. You know, I wish he'd look into some of the Jewish understandings of things. Although I've heard Jews say this too, that usurper, they kind of get what happens is the Edomites later developed their form of Hebrew into that form, and then it kind of backfed back into Hebrew. You understand? But certainly at this phase in language, no such meaning like that. Okay, Yaakov. It's a pejorative to say usurper. And be careful. If you've told people that's what it means, that it means usurper or deceiver or cheat or something, well, you're just believing the Edomite fake news. Okay, that's what's happening. It's not with, or if you have some old lexicon that's saying that, again, that's the Edomites feeding it back into, at this point, for sure, there can be no argument. I mean, the context is right there. It's a play on words, right? When his brother went out, then his hand, Ochezet, was grasping Ba'akev against the heel of Esau. Vayikra, so they called, because it's against the Akev, but because it's against the Akev, they called Shemo, his name, Yaakov. He Akevs, he heals, right? He grabs heels. He's like, nothing to do with usurping or, deceiving or being a trickster. Oh, he's a trickster. Jordan Peterson says he's a trickster. Wrong, 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 wrong. Okay? Just wrong. But you might think, oh, but wait, but he later puts the fur on his arm, the wool on his arm to trick his father. Whose idea was that? Rivka's the trickster. Okay, let's be fair. No disrespect to our mother, but I'm just saying, that's okay. All right. Continuing on, it should be clear as day. You're looking in Hebrew there, boom. There's really no way out of that. Okay, there it is, Ba'akev, and here it is, Yaakov. The Yitzchak ben Shishim. Now, Isaac was ben Shishim. a son of 60, meaning he's 60 years old. Okay. So did I not label the verse here? Oh, it might be covered. Okay, so this is verse 27. Genesis. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're not done. We're not done. That smudge looked to me like a sof pasuk. Hold on. Yeah, there's a smudge. I thought that smudge was sof pasuk. Sorry, it continues. See, that looked to me like an end of verse marker. See, it looks like 2 dots there? But really, this is part of the lamed. Ironically, the scribe probably put this kind of little stroke here to show, hey, don't think it's the end of the verse. I mean, don't think this is some letter here. But that combined with the old top of the lamed looked to me like the end of verse marker. But it continues. He was son of 60 shana, year. Beledit otam, when siring them, when he sired them. Okay. Or it could be in the birth of them. That's probably more accurate. Beledit otam, in the birthing of them. Notice the mem Sophie looks like the way that we draw a samech today, kind of, right? Pretty close. So careful with that. Any comments or questions? How you guys doing? Let me just check something. Okay, good. We're almost ready for a break. We might have 2 breaks today. I'm trying to give them to you every 45 minutes. Let's see how it goes. I think we'll finish this page, and then I'll give you maybe a 3.5-minute break, like that. Okay, like we've been doing. Maybe 5 minutes. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, continuing with verse 27. Let's see. I'm just scanning something real quick. Let me see. Yeah, maybe we'll count this one. Okay. Vayigdelu hane'arim vayhi Esau ish yodei tzayid ish sadeh v'Yaakov ish tam Yoshev Ohalim. Yay, sometimes it's clear. You can see the trope clearly. Okay. Vayigdelu. Then they became gadol, big, right? So when they grew up, who grew up? Han Ne'arim, the Ne'arim. A Na'ar is actually a seglet, by the way. So if you're ever wondering how to put suffixes on it, even though it has 2 patas, it has to do with the ancient way it used to work. So Na'ar is a lad. Han Na'ar is the lad. Han Na'arim are the lads. So Vayigdelu Han Na'arim, when the lads grew, Vayhi Isau. Isau was a ish, a man, Yodea, knowing, Said, hunting. Evo ein Jäger. Sorry, the German just wants to come out sometimes. Ish Sadeh, or da Ish Sadeh, a man of Sadeh, field. And I don't know why it's not Hasadeh. If anybody has any thoughts here, I would have expected it to be, oh, right, because if it's Ish Hasadeh, then it's the man of the field. But why not Ish Lasadeh? Anyway, Ish Sadeh, he was a man of a field. It was a field man. And Sadeh can also mean like a parcel of land too. It doesn't have to be a field. The Yaakov, but Yaakov was, we have to imply was, we're using the same Haya, the Vayhi, right? And he was. And Ish Tam, a perfect man. Again, from my book, Tam, perfect, complete, guiltless, without sin, upright, honest. In my translation, I chose to translate this as perfect here because this is a valid translation option, though challenging, no doubt, for some Gentilic Christian traditions. Right. So, do not let if you're from some Christian denomination, please do not let your Hebrew impaired tradition deprive you of this possible meaning of the text. He was an Ish Tam, a perfect man. When we're commanded to be perfect, it's the same word here. I think it says, V'hayetem tamim ki tam anochi. You shall become perfect, or you shall be perfect because I am perfect. It can also mean complete, right? But that's the command. We are to be like our ancestor Yaakov. and each Tom a perfect man, or a complete man. So contrary, right? So much on this page disproving the usurper, trickster, fraudster. No, he's an Ish Tom, and he's called Yaakov because he ochezit be'akev Esau. He grabbed by the heel Esau. Right? It's like the text is making sure that this, I won't call it heretical teaching, but let's call it slanderous teaching that our ancestors named. And you can see why people grab onto this. I'm not saying that everybody has done this intentionally, right? But you can see why the teaching persisted, why the nachash, why the devil wants to keep it out there, right? Because with whom are Jews associated? Sure, Avraham, okay, sure, Yitzchak, but more than anybody else, with Yaakov Avinu, right? Because he's Jacob, who's later called Israel, right? So of course, people who don't like Jews are going to love this definition. I think they carry many ignorance along. Like, I'm not saying everybody intends it to be anti-Semitic, though the whole idea of him being a usurper, but it is. It is. And now we're going to get another qualification of how great our ancestor was. And notice this is before his name is changed to Israel. There's no conversion when he wrestles with the angel, okay? It's not a conversion. He was always an Ish Tam. Yoshev Ohalim, or Yoshev Ohalim, a dweller of tents, or dwelling in tents, but we don't have the bait there. So it's very interesting. So it's really like saying the tent thing is associated with him. Now, the sages say that means he was into studying, right? He would sit in the tent, because you can understand Yashav. Yashav can mean to dwell, or can mean to sit. And this week we have Sukkot coming up. So to my Hebrew roots friends out there who will criticize why we don't sleep in the sukkah, some people do, right? Because the mitzvah says you shall yashav, you shall dwell in sukkahs or sit in the sukkah, right? If Hashem wanted to make sure we understood that we had to live in the sukkahs, he would have used the word shachan, right, to inhabit the sukkah, like to dwell, right, like the Shekhinah, God's indwelling, right? But he used the word yashav, so it can either meaning of the verb fulfills the mitzvah. So you can sit down and eat a meal. The rabbis saying that counts as fulfilling the mitzvah. That's why, because it also means sit. So he was a sitter of tents. It's not like Esau just lived out in the wild getting rained on or something, right? So that's another reason to understand it as. And to sit in tents means to study Torah, right? Studying the teachings that Abraham had passed down. Contrasted with Esau, who is a wicked ish yodeat sa'id, a man knowing hunting. Now, you will recall there are only 2 hunters in the entire Bible. Esau, who's the other one? Give you a pause to answer just for a sec. There might be a delay. Nimrod, right? This is not to 100% say that hunters are bad or something, but it is interesting that in all of the Hebrew scriptures, and they are a lot, written over a period of 1,000 years, the only examples of hunters that we get are bad guys. So think about it. And this, I lose followers, I lose subscribers usually when I teach on this. Because, let's face it, in the United States, many of the religious people are in the South, right? And in the South, hunting's pretty popular. And so I start talking about how, look, in the Bible, the hunters are bad guys. People don't like it, right? But I will say that this is why in Judaism, hunting is not allowed. It's not kosher. You cannot hunt, right? So take it as you will. It's not like you're breaking Shabbat or something, so we might just have to disagree on that point, but at least you can see the reasoning, the rationale behind it, right? Because we find no examples of good hunters. Okay. All right. You might come back with me with, but the Psalms, it talks about like a bird fleeing the trap, or like a bird stuck in the trap. Well, that's different. That's different. Certain types of trapping are allowed, like a humane cage, right? Or if it's a small animal, certain kind of hook that can, like a rope hook that can grab the leg. If it's not a kind of animal that might chew the leg off or something like this, or become injured from it, there are types of trapping which are allowed. Kosher, humane methods, that is allowed. So let me just preempt the argument. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We are about 50 minutes in. This is a good place to, let's see, on my tab showing 51 minutes and 10 seconds now. This is a good place to take a break. So I'm going to let you guys, excuse me, have a break now. Let me just see how I'm going to do this, okay? Somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes, all right? So here I'll give you 5 minutes, and you can hear a Hebrew literacy original, a modern rendition off Psalm 23. Hope you enjoy it. See you after the break.
A Psalm of David, Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai is my shepherd, Adonai Roi. I'm not gonna lack, lo echsav. In green meadows, he lets me relax. Binodei sheyavitzeni. Near tranquil streams, he leads me. Al menuchot yinaleni. My vigor he refreshes. Nafshi yeshavev. Guiding me on just tracks. Yancheni b'maglei tzedek. Because of who he is. Leman shemo. Because of who he is. Leman shemo. Because of who he is. Leman shemo. In the darkest valley, Begates Almovet. I fear no harm, lo irora. Because you are with me, Ki ata imadi. Your rod and your staff, Shivtecha u'mishantecha. They bring me comfort, Hema yenachamuni. They bring me comfort, Hema yenachamuni. They bring me comfort, Hema yenachamuni. You set a table before me, across from those waiting for my phone. You anoint my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Go see Revoy. Wow, the greatest love chases me. All the days of my life. Surely I'm gonna live where Shabbatim in Adonai's mansion, Beveit Adonai for all time. Leorech Yamim for all time. Leorech Yamim for all time. Leorech Yamim.
Okay, resume. Hope you had a good break. Let's continue to study more. Here we are with Genesis chapter 25, verse 28. Vaye ehav Yitzchak et Esau. Now, Isaac, Yitzchak, loved Esau. Ki, it looks like one word there, right? Esau, ki. It's Esau, no vowel under the vav. Ki, for Said befiv, game in his mouth. The Rivka, but Rivka, Ohevet, loved et Yaakov. She loved Yaakov. Verse 29. Vayazed Yaakov Nazid. Now Yaakov was like seething, boiling, Nazid, like something to be boiled. Let me have a comment on this. Where's my comment? It's a word play. Vayazed Yaakov Nazid, boiling or seething is from the same root as lentils, right? Which is also abdashim, but right? So he was boiling those legumes. Vayavo Esau min hasadeh. When Esau came in, entered from the field, from his hunt. The hu ayef. And look how the vowels, it's kind of hard to get them in the right place, right? We have a comma's over to the side, and then the tsere is underneath the ayin, kind of. So you can see the scribe's trying to work with the space he has. He was fainting. Verse 30. Vayomer Esau el Yaakov hala'iteni na min hadom hazeh ki ayef anochi al kain kara, pardon me, al kain kara shemo Edom. Right? I just noticed the trope are pretty clear there, fairly clear. Vayomer Esau. Then Esau said, El Yaakov, unto Yaakov, unto heel grabber, Halaiteni. It's just kind of weird. It's like, shove down my throat. Nah, please. Or now, Min ha'adom, from the red stuff. Ha'adom, the red stuff. Hazeh, this one, from this red stuff. Ki ayef anochi, because I am fainting. I'm weak. Al kain, therefore, kara shemo. He called his name Edom, red stuff. Now, Edom is related to Adamah, right? You can see in the note there in the upper left, Edom, Adamah, ground, with the idea of the clay-cursed ground being red in color. If you've ever seen red clay. Some say it's also related to the shorter word dam, meaning blood. The common misconception is that Edom was so called because Esau was red himself. The biblical reason is the red lentils incident. Right? So you can kind of get two etymologies for why Edom is called Edom. He himself is red, and he wanted the nazid, which really means the seethed thing, the thing that had been cooked, right? The red lentils, which I love lentils. With some garlic powder, put in some onions, some salsa. Woo! Okay. Let's continue. Oops, I missed the animation. There we go. I like those. Genesis chapter 25, verse 31. Vayomer Yaakov. Then Yaakov said, Michra chayom. Sell chayom. Interesting. As the day. That's kind of strange. I would have expected hayom. Chayom as the day. So this is just showing how Yaakov spoke, which is really cool when you see You see these like very strange speech patterns that you wouldn't expect. And of course, this is a very important part of the text, what our ancestor actually said, right, in legally acquiring the birthright. So it's very good, I think, that you don't see exactly as you'd expect. I would expect Hayom, today. But he says Chayom, as the day. Sell as the day, et bechoratecha. Bechorah is birthright. Bechorat, birthright of cha, of you. Sell the birthright of you, li, to me. A deep mistake prevalent in the Christian tradition is treating Yaakov, who is called Tom, perfect, guiltless, honest, as a cheat, while conveniently overlooking this passage where Esau spurns the birthright, treating it like garbage. Genesis 25, verse 32. Let me just scan and see. Yeah, I can't see the Tom on this guy. Kind of weird. Okay, well, I see what makes sense. Vayomer, Esau hinei, anochi holech lamut. We'll stop there. The nachta. Look at this nachta too, right? It's just like a carrot top, not like we see in some scripts the nice, like squiggly, looks like a wishbone. So Vayomer Esau. Then Esau said, Hinei, look, Anochi holech lamut. I am going to die, just like we say in English, right? Ani holech, I'm going lamut, to die. Velama ze li. Okay, I kind of preempted the li as I expected it to be li, but it says, the consonantal text looks like it says lo. But we have a chirik here. But remember, this guy, okay, so look how he does his vavs. It kind of angles and then comes down, right? And look at his yods. Curvy, right? And here, it's curvy, but he got a little bit crazy and went long. I think that's probably what happened. It is possible that he was copying from a text where it's a vav. Remember, I told you sometimes the yod and the waw would switch place because they sounded the w with a vowel on it, like li and liu. It sound kind of similar, so it's possible like that. But I think he just got a little bit crazy with his vav here. The Masorah is saying something. In case you're wondering about the Masorah, this is, oh, this guy's commented over here, actually. I covered it up with my note. Because it starts lama ze li. So this whole phrase, there's a comment at the bottom of the page in the Masorah that is going to have this marker and it's going to tell you all about it. All about this phrase. Probably where it shows up or something like that. Oh yeah, I think lama ze is only 3 times in the text. So, and that's the gimel with the dot on it. You'll see like a letter with a dot on it, and that's like an anchor point. So it's either, so it's talking about in the big Masorah up above or down below to look and see. You look for that same mark and you'll find the comment about it. So it's kind of cool. They have this system of marking. There's the Masorah, the tradition talks about this. I think this one is 3 times. Lama ze, why this? 3 times in the Torah. So lama ze li, why should I have this? Bechorah, birthright, right? Because Anuchi holech lamut. See, he's guilty. Nobody had to sneak him out of him. Nobody had to weasel it out of him. He sold it. He's hungry. He can't fast. He just had Yom Kippur. I hope you guys all had a good fast. We really felt his presence at the end in the final prayers, saying Na'ila and such. Is really, really, really interesting. Yeah, so that was really quite a blessing. Okay. Many people had experiences. So, verse 33. Vayomer Yaakov, or Vayomer Yaakov. Hishava. Is it Yaakov? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Hishava. Ah, I couldn't see the bottom of that guy. Lihi Kayom. Leishava lo. Okay, let's stop with the Etnachta. Vayomer Yaakov. Then Yaakov said, Hishava. Swear an oath. Li. To me. Kayom. See again. Okay, this is just the way he talks, right? This is the way he talks. Instead of saying Hayom, he says Kayom. Do you see that? This is the kind of stuff that's lost in translation. The little icing on the cake. And I've never heard any other teacher mention this or talk about it. I don't understand why. I find it so great and so beautiful that we can see the Torah, in other places in the Tanakh too, not just the Torah, captures the exact quotes of people, even when they speak strangely, right? Yaakov's got a certain speech style. So he says, as the day, instead of hayom, the day is usually how people would say today. In standard biblical Hebrew, SBH, you say kayom. That's not kayom, I'm sorry, hayom. The day is today. But our ancestor says kayom. Isn't that interesting? He says it up here too. Kayom. So it's not a scribal error. He's doing it twice. So he shava, swear an oath, li to me, kayom, today, although as the day, if we're trying to catch how he speaks. Vayishava, lo, and he swore the oath to him. And here we can see the vav. It's a little bit more distinct than the one up here that was questionable. See the curvy. So yeah, I think he just got crazy with his yod there. Yeah. Vayim kol, and he makar, he sold et bechorat, the birthright of him. Yaakov, to Yaakov. Don't worry about this. This is just another lamed from the lower line coming up. That's what that is there. So that's nothing to be worried about. He sold his bechorah, his birthright, to Yaakov. Any comments or questions? Just monitoring my time to try to time things correctly. Maybe one more time just through the text if you want to practice your reading from the ancient script. Vayoma Yaakov, Michra chayom et bechoratecha li. Vayomer Esau, Hinei anochi holech lamut. Velama ze li, not lo, bechorah. Vayomer Yaakov, Hi shava li kayom. Vayishava lo. Vayimko et bechorato le Yaakov. Nice. Now here I have it grayed out. We're going to show this on the next page. That's just the next verse beginning. Yaakov Natan le Esau. Then Jacob gave to Esau. Vayim koet bechoto. So according to Targum Yonatan, right, which is an Aramaic translation, Jewish Aramaic translation of the Torah, well, pseudo Yonatan technically, and according to its translation of verse 29, and Midrash Tanchuma, Toledot 2, and the Talmud Tractate Bava Batra, page 16b, the boys were 15 years old when this happened. Okay? So in Jewish tradition, that's old enough to enter into a legal contract. Just saying. Just saying. No usurping going on, no sneakiness going on. Simple transaction. Genesis chapter 25, verse 34. Let me zoom in a bit. It's kind of hard to see. Okay. Yaakov Natan le'Esau lechem unezid adashim vayochal vayesh vayakum vayelach. I think I messed up some of the tamim somewhere. That's the other thing that the text also does. It puts some other things in there that we don't usually have in the Biblia Hebräica Stuttgartense or in the BHQ or any of these other. There's some extra symbols, like you see this guy. This is called a rafe, right? So you don't need that. It's saying, look, no dagesh in this Begad Kafat letter is basically what it's saying. Although later in Jewish prayer books and sidurs, it gets really annoying. Some of the pre-computer ones. I've got some of these where they put the rafa like in the wrong places. They're basically showing people pronounce it like this because it had become a tradition to say it a certain way, but it's really not correct. The tradition. So I find that really annoying. Those rafas all over the place, and it throws me a little bit too. Like seeing them when I would have expected. Anyway, so my apologies if the canting's not spot on today. I looked at the top part. Oh, those are clear. No problem. Let's just go. And then like I couldn't see the signs in some of the other ones. So, all right. V'Yaakov natan le'Esau. So Jacob gave to Esau lechem. You could translate that as food or bread, either one. Food. Unezid adashim, and it really says like the seething of lentils. Vayochal, then he ate. Vayesht, and he shatat, he drank. Vayakom, then he kum, he got up. It's the verb kuf, vav, mem, and the middle letter is gone. Vayelech, and he halach. Hey, lamed kaf, the hey's gone. Lamed kaf. And he went his way. Vayivez Esau et habechorah, and in case you missed it, so Esau despised the Bechorah, the birthright. He despised it. Nobody had to swindle it from him. He despised it. I'll take a quick drink here. Okay, and we're back. Despised it, yo. That's fine. I don't want to beat that like a dead horse. Although I moved over here, and now it's better to be in the other place. Oops. All right. So here we have one of these things where bottom of the column issue again, right? So we are now in Genesis chapter 26, verse 1. So we ended chapter 25. Congratulations. You made it through all of chapter 25. Let's continue. Vayhi ra'av ba'aretz milvad ha'ra'av harishon asher haya bimei Avraham vayelech Yitzchak el Avimelech melech Plishtim Gerara. Okay. I finally realized this one that's usually curvy with the dot, he just does it straight with the dot. That was throwing me off before. Okay. Okay, we're getting there. Vayhi ra'av. Then there was a ra'av, a hunger, a famine, ba'aretz, in the land. Oh, my arrow's in the wrong. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Okay. Ever since that time, there had not been as severe a famine in the land of Canaan as there was at the time the Torah speaks of here. A famine severe enough to cause the inhabitants of the land to migrate in search of food, which is going to make sense in the context as we continue. See? Milavad, apart from Hara'av, the famine, Harishon, the first one. Asher, which Haya was, Bimei Avraham, in the Yemei Avraham, the days of Abraham. Vayelech Yitzchak, so Yitzchak went El Avimelech, unto Avimelech, the Melech Plishtim, the king of the Philistines, Gerara, towards the place called Gerar. Because he thought going down to Egypt, as his father had done, had gone down in time of famine. He said to him, that he is God. God said to him, do not go down to Egypt, for you are a burnt offering without blemish, and residence outside the Holy Land is not befitting you. That's from the Midrash Breshit Rabbah 64:3 and also Rabbi Rashi. Right? He had been deemed as an orlah. Abraham was going to sacrifice him up as an orlah. And then some tradition says he actually did, right? That he actually did, and then he was resurrected, right? Okay. verse 2. Sorry, I didn't label it clearly. Oh, I covered my label with the note there. This is Genesis 26, verse 2, right where the mouse is over there. Okay. Vayeraha Elaiv Adonai Vayomer Al Tered Mitzrayma. Okay, let's stop there with the Anachta. Vayera. This is the verb Resh Aleph Hey, but the Hey is gone. We're left only with Resh and Aleph, right? As happens with verbs like that. It's hard to see there's a Tzere there. So this is a Nifal, right? It couldn't get the Dagesh. It would have been Vayinra in ancient times, and it became Vayera. So Nifal is usually passive, right? So Ra'as to see, but Nira is to be seen or to appear. So Vayera Elaiv Adonai. Then Hashem appeared unto him. Vayomer, and he said, Al, don't Tered, go down, Mitzrayim, towards Egypt. Mitzrayim is Egypt, Mitzrayim is towards Egypt. Okay, let's see. Shechen Ba'aretz Asher Omar Elecha. Shechen. Is it really Shechen? I don't see the vowel there. Oh, Shavu. His bait looked like a cough to me. Yeah, the handwriting goes mouth sometimes. Shavu. Right? Shechen. Because his noon, Sophites look just like just like the vowel. Shavu. And the dot is kind of worn there, right? So dwell, ba'aretz, in the land, right from Yashav. The first yod fell away, so we're left just with Shin and Beit. So dwell, like sit, ba'aretz, in the land. Asher Omar, where I will say, Elecha, unto you. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. All right, Genesis chapter 26, verse 3. See, there's the Omar Elecha. I've kind of put on shades on it so it's not distracting. Gul, sojourn, ba'aretz, in the land. Hazot, this one. The yea, and I will be imecha, with you. Va'alvachecha, va'alvachecha, and I will bless you. Ki lecha, for belonging to you, uliza'acha, and to your zera, your seed. Etain, I will natan, I will give, et kol ha'artzot ha'el. Very interesting. All these lands. By repeating his oath, God specifically excluded Yishmael's descendants from this promise. This was in spite of the fact that Yishmael was a descendant of Yitzchak's father, Avraham. This is Chizkuni's comment. And then the Ha'el, that's a little strange. You see it sometimes. It's like an old form. But because I'm sharing with you guys how the commentators, the classic commentators, they love to chime in on grammar and meaning of words and stuff like that. Rashi comments that Ha'el is the same meaning as Ha'ele, right? So hence Ha'artzot Ha'ele, these lands. V'chakimoti, and I will establish, literally I will cause to kum, I will cause you to stand up, right? I will establish et hashavuah, the oath, asher, which, nishba'ati, which I swore. That means to swear an oath. LeAvraham, to Avraham. Avicha, the Av of Ha, your father. By the way, you might wonder why it's Avi, right? So this is a very old word. So avi, kind of strange, the plural is avot, right? It's got a feminine plural, it seems, because it's very ancient, just has to do with how ancient Hebrew used to work. So avi, if it's avi, then it's the av of me, my father, right? But if it's avi, it can also be construct form, father and so. It's just an older, really it's a genitival yod is what's happening there. So before you needed the construct. So it's an ancient case ending for those of you who are into languages and such. Like for the Russian speakers, родительный падеж, right? It's like that. Родительный падеж, the so-called genitive of Deutsch. So many languages have this where they have certain endings that tell you how the word's functioning. So that's a holdout. So avi used to be father of, and then when you put the other yod on, father of I, it just would collapse to one yod. So avi is my father, right? So avicha instead of avcha, right? Which would be logical following standard biblical Hebrew. So anyway, that's why that's happening. If you care, if you care about such things. Okay. All right, Genesis chapter 26, verse 4. Maybe I'll zoom in a bit. That's kind of not so easy to see. I might have put too much on one page. Okay. The hirbeti, and I will cause to be rav, to be numerous. Et za'acha, the seed of you, the zera of you. Kechochavei hashamayim, like the as ke kochavei from kochavim of hashamayim, the luminaries of the sky. It's not 100% accurate to say luminaries, but I like to say that because usually this is translated stars. A kochav is a star. But in biblical Hebrew, it's more than a star. It's anything that shines in the sky, right? So it can be a star, it can be a planet, it can be a meteorite, right? All those things, and that's kind of important to know when you're dealing with prophecy, right? So when later you look at Revelation, and the Jewish Greek says an astara, a star will fall from the sky, right? Kill a bunch of people and stuff, and that's kind of ludicrous. An atheist could point at that and say, and we're supposed to be ready with an answer always for the faith that's within us. So if you know that's Jewish Greek, so the engine under the hood is Hebrew, and kochav is any kind of luminary in the sky. So then it could be a meteorite, right? Be an asteroid, whatever, something like this. It's not literally a star. When people say star, they're flattening down and choosing, which is fine in some. You could say like the stars in the sky, right? Because presumably meteorites aren't always around. And the planets, you can count them, right? So maybe that's okay, but I just want to make sure that people are aware of that meaning because that affects understanding prophecy later, to know what the words really are saying. So, v'hirbeiti et zaracha kechochavei hashemayim. So I will make numerous your seed like that word, the luminaries or the stars of the sky. V'natati, and I will give lezaracha, to your zera, to your seed, et kol, actually da, kol, and we don't read this is just part of an aleph to make a placeholder, ha'artzot, all of the lands, ha'el, they're these ones. Let's stop here because I have a note. Through your descendants, all the nations of the world will receive genetic input. Rabbi Yosef Bar Tuvia, very interesting, right? Interesting take. I find this really interesting too because sometimes people say, "Oh, everybody's, got some Jewish blood somewhere." Maybe, maybe Rabbi Yosef Bar Tuvia is correct in that assumption. Which would make a lot of sense for being grafted back into the tree later. V'hit barechu v'zaracha kol te goyei haaretz. All the goyim of the nations of the earth. Hitbarechu. So the root, of course, being barach, not barak, barach. Hitbarechu, expressed in the hitpayel, binyan, would usually express reflexive action, to do to oneself. It could also be rendered as wish a blessing to one another, according to Halot. Pardon me, sorry, that's just me talking about it, sorry. Halot claims that it could be rendered the same as nifal, which is a passive binyan, to be blessed. There is no agreement with DCH, that's the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew, another monster, and BDB presents it as the other way. Nifal renders like hitpile for this root, to bless oneself. So it's hard to find agreement among the various scholarly lexicons out there. Is it saying they will bless themselves because of your seed, or they will be blessed because of your seed? So it's not abundantly clear. Or they will bless one another because of your seed. Anyway, there's some kind of blessings going on. Okay. Genesis chapter 26, verse 5. It's funny, I left the room before we did our break and now have some effect issues, but I think they're okay. My main thing is to not block the text, right? So I think we're doing that. Aikiv asher shama avaham. Now, aikiv, this is kind of a nice thing the text is doing here. It can mean heel, like I mentioned before, like the back part of the foot, or it can mean something like because of such and such, right? On account of that. Or it can mean like a reward, right? So aikiv, the reward, asher, of how shema Avraham bekoli, how Abraham obeyed me. Literally, he listened in my voice, he obeyed me. So reward actually kind of works, right? As a consequence, as a positive consequence, right? Aikiv expresses positive consequences. But really, you can think of it's the heel of the thing, right? It's like you're walking, you did the right thing, and then the other foot's behind, and then here comes the heel, right? That's probably how that developed. Vayishmo mishmati. And he has kept my regulation, mitzvotai, my commandments, chukotai, my statutes, the toratai, and my teachings, my torot. Some would use this as evidence of an oral Torah. I would have expected it to be in the dual if that was. Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, oh yeah, that would still be. Yeah, never mind. Never mind. Still works. So it could be my two teachings, my two Torahs. And then verse 6. Vayeshiv Yitzchak big wow. Then it kind of runs together, doesn't it? Then Yitzchak Yeshiv, he dwelled be in Gerar. Notice it's not Gerara now because it's not towards Gerar. You don't live towards some place. You live at a place. Any comments or questions? How are you guys doing? I'm trying to decide if we should take another break now or if we should just keep pushing through. I think push through. I think that'll be the best use of your time. Oh yeah, and maybe we read this again. I forgot that this is probably useful for you guys as it's someone's handwriting from a long time ago. V'hirbeiti et zer'acha kechochavei hashamayim, v'natati lezer'acha et kol ha'artzot ha'el, v'hitbarechu v'zer'acha kol goyei ha'aretz. Aikiv asher shema Avraham bekoli, v'yishmor mishmarti, mitzvotai, chukotai, v'torotai, v'yeshiv Yitzchak bigrar. You guys doing all right? All right, let's continue. Oh, no, what are you doing? verse 7. So this is Genesis 26, verse 7. Just scanning. I think I can make out the ta'amim. Vishalu anshe hamakom leishto vayomer achoti. Sound familiar? Ki yareh lemo ishti. Penyaharguni. Where's the Tom there? I don't see the Tom. Oops. Anshe hamakom arivka. Kitovat mare. Yeah. It's not a reading problem, it's a ta'amim. Trying to find and understand what are the ta'amim in this ancient way of writing is sometimes tricky. Okay. Vayishalu anshe hamakom. Then the men of the place inquired leishto about his wife. Vayomer, and he said, achoti. I don't know if you remember my song of that. She's my sister. Ki yarei lemo, for he is fearful to say, ishti, my wife. Pen, and this is where I got a little bit searching for the tamim and I never really found it. Yaharog, pardon me, Yaharguni. You'll notice it's defective. It doesn't have the u here, so the Masoret's added the u. That's how you know it's an u and not a. Yahagu. So harag, it's a hey, not a chet, is to slay. Yeharguni. They will slay me. Who? The Anshe Hamakom, the men of the place. Al, concerning, or it's like concerning the issue of Rivka. Ki tovat mar'eh. This one I was having trouble finding the tam also. For pretty of form, pretty of sight, is she. Okay. Oops, I'm covering part of the Torah. I didn't mean to do that. Let me move my camera. Sorry. No, not you. There we go. Okay. All right, any comments or questions? We'll just read through it one more time. וישאלו אנשי המקום לאשתו, ויאמר אחותי היא, כי ירא לאמור אשתי, פן יהרגוני אנשי המקום, על רבקה כי טובת מראה. I just noticed when reading it faster, that's strange. So he said, she's my sister, because, and now it says, he feared to say, she's my wife. Okay, that all makes sense. But now listen what it says, lest they slay me. It's like we have his inner thoughts here instead, right? It should have been lest they slayed him, right? Slay him, because no longer quotes from his inner thoughts anymore. Or I guess he could be saying that. Oh yeah, okay, he can continue his thoughts. Not as weird as I thought. Sometimes you gotta work it out talking about it. Okay. Abarbanel comments, she is my sister, that is, my relative. Because achot can mean a relative. He was not lying, Abarbanel. Going to bat for Yaakov Avinu there. Genesis 26, verse 8. Vayhi ki arechulo sham hayamim. So it was that they arranged for him sham there, hayamim, the day. So like the days fell in place, right? So or it could be they were lengthy. They got longer, right? The days got long. That's probably what it's arach. Because we have in the Torah, in the Ten Commandments, it says, Ya'arichun, same verb, will be lengthened, yamecha, your days. So, ki arechulo sham hayamim, for lengthened for him there the days. So he's there for a while. Vayashkef Avimelech, the Melech Plishtim, Be'ad hachalon. Then Avimelech, the king of the Philistines, and here's a verb, shakaf is to look down, like we talk about in some of the prayers, Hashem looking down from the heavens. So then Avimelech, the king of the Philistines, looked down. Be'ad hachalon. Be'ad feels a bit strange to me to be the word here. I would have expected like me hachalon from the window. But this is like on account of, or only hachalon, the window. We have a marker there, we don't translate. Okay. Vaya vehine Yitzchak metzachek et Rivka ishto. Vaya, and he ra'ad reish aleph hey, the hay went away, and he looked. Vehine, behold, Yitzchak metzachek et Rivka ishto. Yitzchak was fooling around with Rivka, his wife. Mitzachek is also, of course, nice because it's like a play on Yitzchak, right? Same root, like laughing, but it's also fooling around. But it can also mean just playing. You know, if it's kids doing it, it's playing, context dependent. Playing house, I guess you could say. He was playing house with Rivka, his wife. The same word that Yishmael was doing with Yitzchak, according to the Septuagint also, when Sarah saw him. So Septuagint translated what he was doing, what Yishmael was doing before Sarah kicked him out, as trying to do something sexual, right? And that's actually how it translates in Septuagint, that word. In that case, right? It's context driven. Okay. Whoa, I think it's good I didn't give you the break. I think we're going to get through these at a decent time. Genesis 26, verse 9. Vayikra Avimelech LaYitzchak Vayomer Ach Hinehe Ishtecha Hi. Don't read that. Ve'ech amarta achoti hi. Vayikra Avimelech. Then Avimelech. So kara is to call. Kara plus lamed can mean summon. So let's say summon. He's the king. Then Avimelech summoned Yitzchak. Vayomer, and he said, Ach, how? Hine, this, or like now. Ishtechahi, your wife is she. Hey, remember, always got to think like Yoda. Ishtechahi. Ve'ech, so how? Amarta, did you say, Achotihi, my sister is she. The Avimelech mentioned here in our chapter was not the same one that lived in the days of Abraham. Had he been the same, it is inconceivable that he could have asked Yitzchak such a question. He had, after all, had experience with Sarah and Abraham concerning the same subject. The kings of the Philistines generally assume the title Avimelech. By the way, fact check true, according to modern scholarship. Not just them, but it actually was kind of more fairly common among Semitic languages, just as the kings of Egypt generally assume the title Pharaoh. This is according to Kimchi. Now, Avimelech means my father's the king, right? Or it could mean father of the king, but that doesn't make sense for the child to be named that. Which makes sense. Someone's messing with you. Hey, what's your name, boy? Avimelech. His dad's the king. Don't mess with him. So now that's Kimchi's perspective, and I think it makes sense. And a lot of modern scholarship bears it out, right? Although there's another thing that's possible. What if Avimelech's just messing with him? Doesn't say, the text doesn't say Avimelech was disturbed. It doesn't say he was bothered by this. It just says it happened. So maybe he's messing with him, right? Because he knows, this guy learned from his father. Now I want to show you another opinion. Rashi and the Talmud claim it is the same Avimelech. So that's possible. So there's that. There's that. Let me just... Okay, let's keep reading. I'm just going to disappear for a sec so I don't block it. Vayomer elai Yitzchak ki amarti penamut aleha. And he's a little more gracious how he says it. Vayomer, then he said, alive unto him, Yitzchak, that's who's doing the saying, Ki, it's because, Amarti, I thought, literally I said, but the idea is Amarti, Bilavavi, I said in my heart, right? Meaning I thought, Pen, so that not, Amut, I will die, Aleha, on account of her. Okay? Let's just read that all one more time. Just normal speed, no translation, just so you can see it. Vaikra Avimelech Yitzchak, Vayomer. Ach, hine ishtechahi, ve'ech amarta chotihi. Vayomer eliv Yitzchak, ki amarti pen amot aleha. Almost done with the Torah portion. Genesis chapter 26, verse 10. Vayomer Avimelech mazot asita lanu. Vayomer Avimelech. Then Avimelech said, Mazot, what is this? Asita, you have done lanu to us. Where's the ta'am on that guy? I'd like to sing it, but I don't see the ta'am. Okay, I'm just going to choose Mula. Kimat shachav achad ha'am et ishtecha veheveta aleinu hasham. Okay. Kimat, as a little bit. Shachav might have slept. Achad ha'am, one of the people. Et, with ishtecha, your wife. One of the people, rather, number one of the people, Rashi says, i.e. the king. I might have slept with her. Veheveta, and you would have caused to ba, Hifil, you would have brought, aleinu, upon us, asham, guilt. Regarding aleinu, Sforno comments that when the great man of the generation is stricken, those who take shelter in his shade suffer as well. That's Sforno. And regarding the guilt, the word rendered guilt, asham, belongs to the technical vocabulary of the cult system, which particularly with particular application to the unintentional commission of a sin. When it says cult system, it just means the priestly system. It's scholarly mumbo jumbo. It can mean both the offense and its consequences. And in the mouth of Avimelech, it means we would have been subject to punishment. The principle involved is communal culpability, similar to that found in the two previous stories about the matriarch in peril. So this is Nahum Sarna, a modern great Jewish scholar. Genesis chapter 26, verse 11. Vaitzahav Avimelech et kol ha'am le'emo. Then Avimelech, he mitzvahed, he commanded, et kol ha'am, all of the people, le'emo, saying, Hanogea ba'ish, anyone who touches or afflicts against the man, hazeda, this one, uve ishto, or against his wife, mohot yumahat, will indeed be executed, will definitely be put to death. Okay. Yep. Okay. What is the lekach today? Yaakov, our ancestor, was a good man, an ish tam. He was not a trickster or usurper. These are all understandings of the name Yaakov, which come from our detractors' use of the language, the Edomites, right? They spoke Hebrew, if only Hebrew, and it evolved, and they told the story their own way, right? Certainly the bitterness from Esau was passed down. So it's like, it would be kind of like the entire news networks of the world getting casualty reports from Hamas about how many people have been unalived over there, right? That's kind of what it's like, right? Or like learning how well the IDF has been behaving from the Gazans, from Hamas. It's like, that's kind of what it's like. Okay, so when you say that Yaakov Avinu was a trickster, usurper, sneaky guy, you're really letting the enemies of Israel, and he is Israel, the enemies of Israel, define what his name means, which is really the Nachash, is brilliantly clever opponent. Esau was the bad man who treated the Bechorah as trash, while our ancestor was Ish Ohalim, a man of tents, or a man Yoshev Ohalim, a dweller of tents, meaning he's a student of Torah, studying. Our ancestor was out hunting, which means he had something similar to Nimrod, especially if we use Gezerah Shava to connect those to a remez, rabbinical hermeneutic. The Torah is so thorough. This isn't a major point, but it's something I'm often trying to get across to you guys. The Tanakh, not just the Torah, but I want you to see the Torah is so thorough that we even capture how our ancestors spoke. Right? Remember, it said Hayom. Yaakov is saying Kayom. Kayom, actually, not Kayom, Kayom, as the day, right? Instead of Hayom, the day, meaning today. I found that interesting, and I didn't really notice it until we slowed things down, and I was talking about it with you guys. I noticed it live with you. Thought it was kind of weird. I'm sure I noticed it in the past, but I forgot. Let's be careful, all of us. We are in a new year. We've got a clean slate this year going forward. Hopefully, we've all been inscribed in his Sefer for Chaim V'Tovim. Let's be very careful to instill in our children proper personality traits. And children, by the way, for those of you who are childless, children, the sages understood Bo Naich, your children, to be your students, right? So people whom you teach. So let's be careful not to pass any personal weaknesses we may have to our children or to our students, right? Because we can kind of see a glimpse of this, I think. Avraham Avinu said, Achotihi, and so did Yaakov Avinu. He also said, Achoti. Hope you guys have really enjoyed this type of teaching. I'm experimenting with new things. Let me know if you liked it. If you found it too hard to read and you don't find the wowness of connecting to an ancient scroll that's over 1,000 years, an ancient codex that's over 1,000 years old, with that doesn't outweigh the difficulty in reading that text, let me know. I'm all ears. I like to hear what you guys think and what works. But I don't trust. I hope we have. I won't comment on it, but let's just say a prayer for the IDF, as we do not yet have peace. It's looking like there might be a peace agreement. We don't have it yet, so let us pray. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוהינו, מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול ועד לבוא הערבה, ויבשה באוויר ובים. ייתן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו, ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ויהי רצון מלפניך שתשמרם בחייהם ותעזרם במלחמתם ותבוא עליהם ברכת טוב לעד לעדי עד. Amen. In the English of that, he who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless the fighters of the Israeli Defense Forces who stand guard over our land and the cities of our God, from the border of the Lebanon to the desert of Egypt, and from the great sea unto the approach of the Arava, on the land, in the air, and on the sea. May the Almighty cause the enemies who rise up against us to be struck down before them. May the Holy One, blessed is He, preserve and rescue our fighters from every trouble and distress and from every plague and illness. And may He send blessing and success in their every endeavor. May He lead our enemies under our soldiers' sway, and may He grant them salvation and crown them with victory. And may there be fulfilled for them the verse, for it is Adonai your God who goes with you to battle your enemies for you to save you. Also, we dedicate the She'ur to the victims of the earthquake in Cebu. May Adonai help the aid workers to rescue everyone. May there be nobody trapped for extended period. Lo Alehem. May He outpour His Spirit and direct and have mercy. May He have mercy upon the Philippines. Just in case the kavod shows up. אין לנו כהן, אין לנו לוי פה. אעשה את הברכה הזאת אחרי סבב החיצרת, כי יש לנו כהן בשמיים ממעל. ישוע שמו. יברכך אדוני וישמרך. יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך shalom. Shavuot Tov, be blessed. I hope you had a great Shabbat. I will catch you all Monday. Until then, be well. Shavuot Tov. This video was proudly Israeli made and edited. Am Yisrael Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Tikkun Olam, repair the world. Do your part to reduce suffering among humans and animals. Shalom.